atlbeltline.org. And should we encounter any technical difficulties, we appreciate your patience as we sort them out. All right, so before we get into the meat of the presentation, I want to get a sense of the virtual room by asking you all a few questions. As I start the poll, you should see a question pop up on your screen. The feature is not available if you've called in or you're viewing on Facebook Live, but I will read the results to the group. The first question is, what neighborhood do you live in? And what we've done here, since there's a limited amount of options in the Zoom platform, is we've targeted the neighborhoods closest to segments 1 and 5, but there's a few other selections that you can make as well. If you want to throw something, if you're in a neighborhood, excuse me, and it's not listed, you can select the Beltline neighborhood in the city of Atlanta, not on this list. And it looks like we have pretty good participation here. Let's go ahead and close out that poll. And it looks like Blandtown has representation, Underwood Hills, Peachtree Hills, Brookwood Hills, some additional Beltline neighborhoods, other neighborhoods in the city, and we even have an individual who's outside of the city of Atlanta. Next poll. All right. How long have you lived in your neighborhood? That poll should be popping up. There we go. We'll give that a second. All right, let's go ahead and lock that in. All right, so we have 46% of the room 1 to 5 years, 15% 6 to 10 years, and 39% 11 or more years. Next poll question. What's your relationship to the Atlanta Beltline? And waiting for that poll to pop up. We'll be launching poll number 3. There we go. All right, and this is multiple choice, so the numbers will not add up, but select any of the options, 2 or 3 that apply to you. Trail users, homeowners, renters, residential landlords and business owners and commercial landlords, all in Beltline neighborhoods, developers, real estate brokers, community activists or advocates, or just general interest in the project. All right, and we'll go ahead and end that poll. So we have a lot of general interest in community advocates, a lot of homeowners and trail users, but we do have representation across all the categories. The next poll is, what are you most likely to be doing on the trail? Poll number 4, please. All right, so got a couple buckets here. This is multiple choice as well. So exercising or recreation, errands, getting to work or school, or engaging in leisure activities. Or possibly you don't use the trail. That's a 5th option, actually. All right, and we'll go ahead and lock that one in as well. So we have representation across the categories, but recreation and leisure activities are trending the highest. And our final poll question to start the evening is tonight your first Beltline meeting. And we're talking virtual, we're talking pre-pandemic. Have you been with us before? Let's see how close to 100% participation we get on this one. We're at about 85, 87, 91%. All right, 95%. We'll go ahead and lock that in. First Beltline meeting, yes, 10 individuals in our virtual room. First time, welcome, and welcome back to the other 35 individuals who have attended a Beltline public meeting before. And we often see this is the case. We almost always have more than one, sometimes in this case 10 participants who are joining us for the first time. So one of the things we like to do really briefly before we get into the Northwest Trail is we like to ground the room with a really quick one-on-one presentation. So I'm going to kind of run through this very, very quickly, but we talked a lot about trail. The Beltline is much more than trail. In fact, the original vision of the Beltline was a project repurposing historic rail corridors, freight rail corridors, into a 22-mile loop of transit connecting into all the MARTA heavy rail stations as well as the existing bus service. But this project has grown leaps and bounds in its vision and ability to reconnect neighborhoods that were historically cut off by that same rail line. In fact, you can see that in our vision statement, which is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. And we're doing this through the transit program. We're also developing roughly 22 miles of what we call mainline trail, like the trail we're speaking about tonight, with an additional 11 miles or so of connector trails. We're connecting neighborhoods. We're connecting our goal of 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing and $10 billion in economic development, as well as 48,000 construction jobs and 50,000 permanent jobs. We're connecting 1,300 acres of green space, and that's new green space that didn't exist in the city before. As we move around the corridor, there's a lot of environmental cleanup, and we're fortunate to have one of the largest public art programs in the Southeast. And that's seen throughout programming through arts and culture, murals, sculptures, and so on. Really, it is a comprehensive redevelopment project for the city of Atlanta. So we do all this work with that vision of equity and inclusion, and we do this with the people through our community engagement framework. And this is part of that framework tonight. So I welcome you all to this space. I'm excited to hear the updates. We're really progressing in the Northwest. And at this time, it is my pleasure to hand things over to Megan and Dichok to talk about segment one. Excuse me, Jay.
It's all right.
Jay's probably thinking, what the heck? JC when you talk about segment one. My apologies, Jay.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Thanks for everybody for joining tonight. We really appreciate it. I think, what's exciting about tonight is the fact that we've got 2 of the 5 segments to talk about now. From design, now we're talking about construction. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about segment 1, which is on the north end of the Northwest corridor. And Megan will be talking to you about segment 5, which is on the southwest end. Next slide, please. So on segment 1, just as a refresher for those that are not familiar with this segment, is it starts, and I always go west to east. I'm a creature of habit, but west to east, it starts at Peachtree Park Drive. It cuts through Peachtree Park Apartments over to Peachtree Creek. And then once you're on Peachtree Creek, you cross over to the north side of Peachtree Creek and you go through the green space over there, over to Kinsey Court. When I think about segment 1, I think about these 2, and using Peachtree Creek as the divider. I think about these as 2 pieces of that puzzle, and that's how I'll present this tonight. Next slide. But first and foremost, we want to introduce our contractor partner on this job, which is Reeves Young. And the individuals that will be working on this project are Brad, Matt, and Brian. Brian will be the day-to-day on-site. And then Brad and Matt will support him from the larger picture. Next slide, please. All right, so again, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the 2 different sides and their individual pieces. So you're starting over on the left end of this chart or this slide, you're starting at Peachtree Park Drive. And once you go into Peachtree Park Drive, the trail will follow the CSX rail on the southern side of the property of that apartment complex. We'll be traveling down the south side. We do have enabling work that's happening in the apartment complex in order to replace parking and fix the roads in there so that it works with the trail. It travels all the way down that CSX rail until we cross over the Peachtree Creek. At the end back there where the blue is our construction area, and then where the suspension bridge is what we're using to cross over Peachtree Creek. Next slide, please. Then as you cross over the creek, that's in the lower left corner, then you go all the way through that green space, over to Kinsey Court. Up at Kinsey Court, we'll have a limited amount of parking construction, or construction parking up there at the end of Kinsey Court, as well as lay down area. For those of you who have been participating in the design process as we presented this, the entire section of red is basically elevated structure to have as small a footprint through this area as possible. If you have been out there to the job, you'll know that we have already actually started on this side of the creek. If you go down to the end of Kinsey Court, we have already cleared all the trees that are going to be taken all the way down to the Peachtree Creek crossing. We've started, it would have started today or tomorrow. We'll be starting our erosion control. And the objective is on both sides of the corridor, what we're trying to do is get down to the creek as fast as possible. Because one of the things that we did on this side of the creek especially was we were very conscious of the fact that we were going through this area. And the idea is that if we can get to the creek and build the bridge, basically then we go out the same path and build the elevated structure on the way out of the corridor. If you notice, when you go to other parts where we're in active rail or in the old rail corridor, you could have as much as 100-foot clear on both sides because we're working with the already cleared land where the rail used to go through. Here, because we don't have that, our focus is to keep the corridor as narrow as possible, take as few trees as possible, elevate the trail so that when we're done and we're finished replanting the arboretum in this area, you basically invite the forest back to the trail. This is going to be spectacular when we finish this area. Next slide, please. So what we're showing here is basically how we're getting in and out of the corridor. You know, this is one that only has 2 access points. A lot of the other ones, you know, we have multiple ways to get in and out. The only way we're getting in and out of this one is on the north side. You're coming down Kinsey Court, and we're coming either from Peachtree or Piedmont to get there. And then on the other side, we're coming from Peachtree and traveling into the apartment complex in order to get back there to that creek. Next slide, please. And these are some quick pictures that I've taken over the last week. Again, we started this project last Monday, a week ago, and we've been able to clear the path for the trail on that north side. This was when the loader was on its way into the site. And then this is a picture that I took where we're actually going to be crossing Peachtree Creek with a suspension bridge. Again, if you've been following the design of this project, we're using a suspension bridge back here for the purposes. The aesthetic is right for this area because it's nice and lacy and it's not overbearing to the existing tree structure. But also it comes in pieces and parts that are small enough to get down to the creek without having to load 50-foot, 75-foot beams to get back here. All of that was a conscious effort to save as much of the existing trees as possible. Next slide, please. And then just as an overview for segment 1 schedule, we began construction, as I said, last week. So that's Q4 of 2024. We will start on the other side of the creek in January. We do have now all of the land rights to do this work, which we are very appreciative of Peachtree Park Apartments because it was a large ask and they've been great partners. So we really appreciate that. They may be on the call, but you know, don't underestimate the amount of work that goes into pulling that together. And then we're going to be finished with construction Q2 of 2026. And with that, I believe that that's my last slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Megan.
All right. Thanks, Jay. I am Megan Injachak. I am the project manager for Northeast Trail Segment 5 construction. So I think this is my first time presenting for Northeast Trail 5. But we broke ground several months ago. Our schedule right now is in August 2025 expected completion. I will always caveat that with we could have weather delays. We've already found some really fun utilities that we didn't think were there. So this will likely slide, and hopefully not too much, but right now we're still on track for August 2025. Our construction team is Astra Group, and our design team is, we are working with Kaizen. Next slide. So this is just to orient you. We're going through, segment 5 goes primarily through Blandtown, picking up at Huff Road and Marietta Boulevard, where we finished West Side Trail segment 3. I think that was back in 2021. We go down Marietta Boulevard, then take a right on Lane Avenue. If you've been out there lately, you've kind of seen how we're shifting where the trail is going to go. We've already started that work about 3 weeks ago. And then we go from the right of way along a lane, cross over Ellsworth Industrial, and get into a small piece of our corridor between Ellsworth and Fairmont. And this will connect to Northwest Trail segment 4. If you go to the next slide, got some updates. So we've split, because this is made up of several different types of trails. We have Marietta Boulevard, which is kind of a higher impact right away. Then we go to a lane, which is kind of a smaller street right of way work. And then we get back into corridor, which is more of what people associate with the Beltline. We've split this up into several zones. So I'm going to go through each zone right now. Zone 1 is Fairmont to Ellsworth. We have started soil remediation, which was big in this section. A lot of the grading and tree removals for this section, we were able to save some trees that were on site. And we're right now moving into duct bank insulation and looking at where the trail is going to go, also looking at where some of the trees will be planted in this area. There is a bridge on this segment and some walls. We hope to start that in December. A lot of this segment is actually up on structure. When you go by, what is the I think it's Atlanta Pickleball. To get into the corridor, there's quite a large wall that we actually have to follow and go down to get to grade for the stream crossing at the bridge. You'll start seeing some trail paving in this section in the spring, around March. That'll be followed or in conjunction with the install of our lighting and our cameras. We'll do our final grading, and then planting usually would follow that, hopefully in some of the cooler months when it's better to plant our trees. This zone should be completed in the second quarter of 2025. This has been moving somewhat smoothly right now. So this is a pretty realistic goal for us on the completion of this as we get closer to, because this is in sections. Sometimes if we feel confident and comfortable to open certain zones or certain sections to the public after we kind of do our final checks with construction, we will do that. That decision is usually made closer to the time that we're ready to open for construction. So if this is open or ready to go before another zone, we might open it before the rest of them connect. So next slide. And this is kind of the thoroughfare connection to the next zone. So this is the intersection of Ellsworth Industrial and a lane. And you've also got now the Woodall Trail that is, I think, at 90% right now, nearing completion. I know I've seen people definitely using it. I actually live over in the area as well. So this is going to be a raised intersection or speed table. Right now, it is somewhat confusing. I know there's a lot of construction going on with both us as well as Path in this same section, but this is the ultimate goal in how we're going to connect both of these trails. And if you look towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see where the Beltline will connect and go straight across from a lane. The Woodall Trail is the one to the north. Next slide. Zone 2, Lane Avenue. This was taken, I think I took this last week, so this is somewhat recent. You've seen a lot of cones, a lot of barrels up. Thank you for your patience with this. We did kind of restripe the road. This will get re-asphalted. I did get a question about that the other day because it is confusing. We have the old striping blacked out right now, and that is just a temporary fix while we continue working on our demolition and our rough grading. We right now are doing some utility locating in this area, as well as just I think most of the trees have been removed that are supposed to be removed. So remaining work, again, duct bank, trail grading. These have November, December start dates. Hopefully you'll start to see some paving around the first of the year, followed by lighting, cameras, and then final grading and planting in this area. Oh, sorry. So completion in Q1 of 2025. Right now we're on track for this. So next slide. All right, Marietta Boulevard. This is kind of one of the last zones that we will begin. So we're looking to start work December or possibly January 2024. And this is kind of a continuation of what you see out there now. Again, it will be a lot of grading in the right of way. There is wall with handrail installation, milling and paving of the asphalt, duct bank install. There is some drainage work that we need to do on Marietta Boulevard, north of Huff Road, and lighting, cameras, and plantings. This again will look very similar to what you guys have out there now on West Side 3 that ends at the intersection of Huff at this time. So this will be one of the final things, one of the final completed segments in 2025. I think that's all my slides, Nathan. You can go, oh, no, it's not. Sorry, Fairmont in English. So this right now, if you guys are out there, this is actually our laydown yard and our construction access point. So it makes sense that this will be, one of the last things that we do. This work will begin kind of around the same time, early 2025, as some of the bigger work on Marietta Boulevard. Same work scope. We have actually kind of a lovely meandering path through this area that will then connect to the next northwest segment. We've also got first time that we'll be installing swings that will act as benches. It's something new for the Beltline that we've been working on in conjunction with the West Side CID, Upper West Side CID. So this area will be Beltline corridor-like, but a little bit more, I guess, playful in a way than you would normally see with the Beltline rail corridor project. And again, this zone should be completed in Q3 of 2025. So I think that is my last slide, Nathan.
I think you're right. There we go. All right. Well, thank you, Megan. Thank you, Jay. Just gonna scan the room real quick here. All right, and it looks like we are ready for our Q&A. So let's talk about how we're gonna do this. It's pretty straightforward. We're gonna try to get to as many questions as we can. If we don't get to all the questions, we'll create a Q&A document that we'll put online for y'all. Our audience is made up of Zoom online and phone attendees as well as Facebook Live attendees. So let's talk about how you can be part of this conversation. So if you're on the phone, you don't want to speak, you just hit *9 on your telephone keypad. That'll basically tell me that you've raised your hand. I will open your line when it's your turn, and it'll tell you to hit *6 to unmute yourself. If you are online on the Zoom platform, now's the time to put your questions or comments into the Q&A box. Additionally, you can upvote a response by clicking on the thumbs up icon, and the raise your hand feature is also available. We will, however, prioritize phone attendees. Hey, Facebook world, we have not forgotten about you. If you want to participate in the comments section, someone on our staff will address your questions or elevate them to the larger group if they're unable to do so. Once your question's been added to the Zoom Q&A, other attendees can also upvote it. All right, so the questions are coming in. Let's start with John. This is probably for you. Yep, probably for you, Jay. Are you able to provide any update on the other Northwest segments, maybe in particular the segment from Peachtree Road west to Bobby Jones, top of the queue?
Right, that's segment 2. And I do have, some good news on all fronts. So as we've discussed, 1 and 5 are under construction. 2, 3, and 4 all will be out of design by the end of the year. So what I do is I break up the project because I'm the project manager on on the Northwest segments. So what I do is I break it up into 3 parts: design, entitlement, and then construction. So we're getting ready at the end of the year to move from the design to entitlement, which is permits and land acquisition. So the good news is for you guys is that segments 2, 3, and 4 are all leaving design and are all in, and to be technical about it, some of them have already started land acquisition. So we're moving quickly along.
Great, thank you, Jay. All right, Northwest segment 1. What security measures will be put in place given Northwest segment 1, that's Kinsey to Peachtree, will most likely be pretty low traffic and in the woods? How many security cameras and lights will be installed? As a homeowner whose property directly abuts the construction site, I have serious concerns about safety. Jay?
Sure. On segment 1, just like all the other segments, we install both lights and cameras. If you go out to any of the segments that are built, it's on the same spacing as what you see elsewhere. We check photometrics for light levels to make sure that we've got it covered, and we have the direct link with these cameras to APD. Also, as you're aware, that the trail is its own precinct, and we have Path Force that patrols the area.
Thank you, Jay. Anthony says, lovely presentation. I wanted to ask how the suspension bridge across Peachtree Creek will interact with future light rail transit along the Beltline corridor. Do you want to take that, or you want me to take a stab?
Why don't you take a stab, and then I'll add if we need to.
Sure. What's one of the most interesting, unique parts about the Northwest Trail is that there was no abandoned or underutilized freight railroad corridor for us to follow, like most of the rest of the Beltline. So the design work to get our final alignments on the trail segments and eventually to get to construction is a project that is being treated sort of separately, related but separately from the transit. In fact, we're actually in the process of looking at where the transit would go in the future through our Beltline Transit Study. You can always go to beltline.org/transit to get more information about that. We recently had a meeting in September, a citywide conversation to discuss that, and we'll be talking again on November 14th in a virtual study group meeting specifically about where transit will go in Northwest Atlanta.
Hey, Nathan, I'd like to answer this one, the second part to Griffin's comment up above.
Yep.
You see that one?
Yeah, I was just moving around so that everybody had a chance
Okay.
to have a voice, but go for it.
Yeah, I do want to address that. So when we originally started looking at segment 1 on that side of the creek, we had that trail on grade, and it was actually through interactions with the community and videos and pictures of what that looks like during the rainstorms that we made the decision to elevate that trail. And here's the great news for you, Griffin, is that what we chose to do was we did studies on what the trail height should be to stay out of a 100-year flood. And we even moved it higher than that. So the trail has been designed to float above a 100-year flood. And as you know, we had a situation or an event a couple weeks ago with the hurricane that came through. We took the flood data and superimposed it into our model to see where we would have ended up had that happened to us, had that happened if the trail was built, and we would have stayed dry. So we believe that and we used the flood gauge data to prove it, and our trail would have stayed dry. So the answer to your question is, in a 100-year flood, we would have stayed, and that was classified. That rainstorm was classified as a 100-year flood rainstorm. So we believe we've thought of everything, and we did it with y'all's help. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. All right, let me clear that one out here. From Chuck, does a shareable rendering or drawing exist for the Fairmont Swing Area Park? Megan?
Rendering of the park or the one that was shown? Sorry. Can you see that one more time?
It says, does a shareable rendering or drawing exist for the Swing Area Park?
Oh, I don't. Jay, did we do a rendering of that segment?
We have an articulated site plan of that with precedent imagery that we can post on the website.
Yeah, if it's not already up, I have the plans right here, but they're very boring. So
Yeah, I think that we have an articulated site plan, colored site plan for that area.
Yeah, so you think that we have something we could share? Not necessarily right here, but if
we do we can post it.
Yeah, we can send it
with the
over
meeting. Yeah.
to be on the I think on the website, on the Beltline website where we've got all of this stuff for Northwest 5. And see if we can get that uploaded.
Chuck, I'm gonna message you directly here. Engage at atlbeltline.org. If you want to send us a message, we'll get that out to you, okay? Going back to the queue here, will the work along Peachtree Creek help with flooding that will likely increase over time? Jay?
What I'll tell you is it's not going to help, but it's not going to hurt. That was our goal, is that we're not going to contribute to it. So what we've done is any surface that we're adding has that's any surface that's not drained, we're taking care of that. We're not going to change what's already there.
Great. All right, this one's from Brent. I live on Virginia Place Northeast near Kinsey, and I'm curious about, can we be part of the process on trees being replanted? My house is on a hill, so we have some privacy issues and want to learn what will be going in. We are excited for the Beltline and happy to support and help in any way, and I'm enjoying watching the construction. Lastly, what are the plans for flooding, as where the path is going to get flooded many times a year? So I think you kind of addressed that second part already.
I did. And Brent, I had a feeling, because of us clearing trees, that this might come up. And what I want to do is give you a quick little couple of numbers. In the process of taking trees to create the trail through that area, we took down 30 healthy trees in order to do that. And we kept that corridor, as I said before, narrow as possible. But to your question, what we're putting back in is 120 new trees in that same area. What we did was, because of what we were doing out there, we focused on this idea that, sometimes when people take down trees, they plant trees elsewhere. We weren't going to do that in this corridor. We are replanting, and we're planting in around the trail to re-energize the arboretum down in that space, not just replacing trees, but we're also doing changing the varieties. So I think you're going to be extremely happy with the final outcome here. I'm surprised just in the 2 years that I've been walking that site, how many trees have left the area either through storm or have died. We are re-energizing your arboretum for you.
Okay, all right, moving along here. Any consideration for changes in the railing on Marietta around the intersection with West Marietta? Is that railing going to continue in the new sections? Currently, they are in pretty rough shape. Megan?
Yeah, they're not looking great. So we knew we were going to get this question tonight. So we have been working with ATL DOT and actually got the latest email and update from ATL DOT on things that they're working with us on. I think they're going to go ahead and install some concrete jersey barriers. I'm not sure the timeline of that, but we're also looking into several other options. We are limited based on, we can't actually drill into the bridge itself. So attaching anything substantial has been the biggest challenge for us on this section. And we're also working with ATL DOT on a few other issues in that intersection, one being the stop bar. People aren't stopping in the stop bar, which is causing a lot of the issues on that corner with trucks in particular. So look out for the jersey barriers. They should be the first thing to be installed, and possibly some other options that look a little bit more permanent behind it.
Cool, thanks, Megan. Next question. Segment 5, will Marietta Boulevard be repaved as part of the Beltline construction? Also, with the existing traffic light at the site of Ready Mix Alto Main remain with the addition of the new light at Elaine? Let me know if you want me to repeat that, Megan.
She may be having difficulty. I can tell you that that Marietta Boulevard will be repaved from Huff down to Elaine. Megan, do you want to talk about the other one?
Yeah, it'll be we're gonna mill and pave it similar to how we did the rest of Marietta south. One of the things.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Jay? Or
Yeah, well, I will tell you that the as it relates to the light at the Ready Mix Alto Main, that light is staying. We did traffic studies for that component, and the proximity to them met the requirements for keeping that light and adding the light at Elaine. So that will stay the same. Basically, what Megan was saying is if you remember in West Side Segment 3, we repaved Marietta. We will be repaving Marietta and this section as well from curb to curb, mill and pave, and restriping. There's a big painted median in the middle of Marietta Boulevard that will be reduced in order to create the space for the new trail. But Marietta will be much nicer than it is today, for sure.
Sorry, we've got people missing the neighborhood and the dogs are a little on alert right now. One thing to stress that we stressed when we did Marietta the first time was this is a mill and pave. There are some substantial issues underneath what we will be doing with the asphalt that we've talked to ATL DOT about that need to be addressed. We've held up pretty well in the rest of Marietta from 2021, but there are some larger potholes, and this is quite a used road with larger trucks. So this won't fix everything, but it will definitely be much nicer than what it is today.
All right, and I'm not sure if we have anyone on the call who can address this, but let's start out there and find out. Regarding the task force, how is this special force organized and funded?
I can't
Yeah.
tell you for 100% sure, but the way I understood Path Force is it's a precinct, so it's APD. And the trail itself is a precinct, so it's funded by the city. And that's what I know.
About the extent for me too, Jay. Anyone else? All right.
Yeah, it was originally funded by a grant from, I believe, the Atlanta Police Foundation. That grant has since run out, so I think it's just a regular APD funding.
Teamwork, y'all. All right. Currently the last question in the queue. So folks, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, now's the time, but we'll address this one. And if we have no other questions or comments, we'll get you guys back to your regular life programming as soon as possible here. So the question is from Matthew: is the sidewalk on the east side of Marietta included in the segment 5 work? There's a gap right now south of a lane. I remember it's shown in the cross sections of the road previously, but was not sure if it was included in the Beltline work.
So it was included in our design documents. It is not included in our current scope of work for this. That
All
answer.
right.
Jay, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, our plan is we're working with Atlanta DOT to see about, whether or not we can include that in. We do have it identified as a cost. There's also, in order to do that, there's the required amount of easements on that side. That at the time there were a couple of the businesses along that edge were in flux. So we would still have to go back and get a couple of easements as well.
All right. Well, that's our last question in the queue. So we can move on to the next slide. We knew it was a little bit shorter presentation, but we wanted to make sure you guys were up to date with what was going on these big construction projects as we try to complete the gap in the Northwest here. So if I can get the next slide, please. To close out the meeting, I have a few additional polling questions. As I start the poll, you should see a question pop up on your screen. This feature is not available if you've called in or viewing on a browser online, but I will read the results to the group just like I did in the beginning of the meeting. So the first question is, was this information presented tonight helpful? Simple yes or no. And I see the numbers rising. Let's go ahead and lock that in. 100% yes. Yay. All right. Well, that's good to know. We will be doing quarterly updates on all of our trail construction projects. So you'll see us in roughly 3 months or so on both of these segments. Last question. Did you learn something new? Yes, no, or perhaps you need a little more clarity on something that we talked about tonight. Patient and 100% yes on this one. So we'll lock that in and call the polling done for the night. We're just going to close out a couple of things we think would be helpful for you if you guys had some contact information on this next slide here. We appreciate you participating in all of our polling and questions and conversation. You met Jay, you met Megan, so we got their contact information up there. I'm running community engagement on both projects. All of our information is up there on the screen. We're dropping it in the chat. But the easiest way, if you're like don't have a pen handy or whatever, just email engage@atlbeltline.org. We check that inbox every single day, and we go ahead and farm out emails to the appropriate person. So that's just the easiest way to get a hold of us. So next slide. And that's really the end of our presentation tonight. We're really excited to advance the Northwest Trail. We have other segments that will be coming behind soon. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting, and we hope to see you all on the Beltline.